Welcome back to another episode of Trucker Talk Radio Behind the Wheelhouse. Today's guest has spent more than 15 years building a logistics company focused on combining technology, customer service, and operational efficiency. From LTL to truckload shipping to creating systems focused on speed, service, and reliability, Brighter Logistics has built a strong reputation in competitive freight market. Welcome in, Justin. Nice to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's nice to have another Justin. Our names has gotten a little bit more popular over the years, but I was born in the '70s, and I didn't see the first Justin till probably late '80s, early '90s. So
I was born in the 70s too, just barely. I just made it in. So
I was called Jason and Josh and John 90% of my childhood. No one could figure out Justin. Now, I don't know why, but it was. I don't know if you experienced that, but that was my childhood. It was never Justin, so I just answered to whatever was said.
there's a lot of Jason for me.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
a lot of
Understand
Jason. Yeah.
that. Exactly, exactly. Well, let's get started with your background and how you end up in this crazy world of logistics and freight.
Crazy thing is I actually have an entrepreneurship degree from Central Michigan University.
Oh, nice.
Um, I have an entrepreneurship degree because, Justin, I didn't want to take the logistics class that I needed to get a business degree. So
Gotcha.
I avoided logistics back in the early 2000s, and here I am, 25 years later, running a logistics company and doing all the things. But prior to like the logistics world, I was all over the place from professional golfer to
Oh, okay.
having a baby, which then made it so I couldn't play golf anymore. Didn't make enough money. And then went from there to Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I got to give them a plug. Greatest training program I've ever been through.
Really?
Very, very, very well done. It was awesome. And then into a few other roles that led me to where I am today. Lost a job in 2008, like just about everybody,
Mhm.
and Echo Global was expanding into Michigan at that point. I
Hmm.
took a job that I normally probably wouldn't have taken. And like I
Right.
said, here I am, 18 years later. So it's been very good. It's been very good to me. It's been very good to my family.
Mhm.
It's led to me having the time to spend with my two boys, my wife. My wife actually helps run our company, Brighter Logistics, today. So
Nice.
it's been very good to us.
You brought up something about your entrepreneur degree. That is my background. I'm like the fourth generation entrepreneur. I never actually went to college because all I was going to go get was a business degree. And I looked at my parents and were like, that's just a waste of money. Because back then I felt like I didn't need a degree. Now I've got a daughter who will be a senior this coming school year. She's going to college for business, more than likely. I would like your advice that I could give her would because she's going to be an entrepreneur. Bless her heart. I wish she might would do something different because I know the struggles just like you. It's not everybody's made for it. You got to really be a go getter and deal with the ups and downs. Would she be better off with some type of business degree or just an entrepreneur? Well, I'd love your thoughts on that. I know it's not part of the show, but for me personally.
From a personal standpoint, watching one son, you know, be in college for 5 years.
Hmm.
Luckily, most of that was paid through, playing baseball. And the other
Hmm.
one is an entrepreneur, has never and never will set inside of a college.
Yeah.
Runs his own shoe business, buys and sells the Nikes and all the
Oh,
clothes
okay.
and does all the things.
Yeah.
18 years old, bought his own house when he turned 18. Like,
Nice.
so he is truly the entrepreneur.
Right.
I would never tell somebody not to be an entrepreneur if they think that they can mentally handle it.
Yes.
Um, it
100%.
gives you the time. Do I think that somebody needs to go to college anymore? I don't. I
I don't
just,
either.
I just don't. It's a personal opinion more than anything. If they're going to do it right going forward, stop making them take a bunch of classes that they don't have to take. If somebody wants to go learn how to be an entrepreneur or a business owner or even be in the business world, then let them go take the business classes and get that degree. And that should be
Yeah.
enough. I think we're starting to see that swing in the world today where less and less are worried about, some kind of degree hanging on your wall, right?
Hmm.
But it's starting to change back around where for the last 25 years at least, if not 35 years, college has been pushed very, very, very hard.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think we'll start to see that change.
I even think trade schools should make a huge push. I mean, the way I look at it, the people's going to make money in 20 years and 10 years now is going to be your plumbers, your electricians. That's where the money's at. It's all people are going to need it. And right now, you can't find anybody to do any of that work. Or if you do, they're 6 months to a year booked up. So I tell all her friends, like, just go find a trade. You don't. I mean, yeah, I guess I see it to where you got to have some type of degree for a lot of these jobs that don't even care what the degree is. It's like they just want to know you went 3 to 4 years at college and were responsible enough to get it. So, but I appreciate that insight because that's one thing that we're working on now is her college and I wanted to go to college. I didn't have that experience, but like, I agree with you. I didn't need it. I learned as a kid of what needed to be done, and then the old school knocks just try and
Agreed.
figure it out, and that
Figure
was
it out.
exactly. You learn a lot that way. You just got to have the mental toughness and the heart to push through it. But
I mean, there's enough good information out there that's so easily accessible to every one of these kids. I mean, I'm an avid I can't really call it reading anymore because I listen to all the books, but like an
right.
ad listen to all kinds of books, and that's where most of the things that I do today come from, right? And I listen and listen and listen, and it'll help me get me back on track and do the things. And it's there. It's like that. You can get on a podcast like this and listen to it, and there's so many good ones out there. And AI is helping you do more of that even faster.
Yeah, well, it's even like with me a lot of times, and I use it for the show sometimes. If I have an ideal and I'm can't really figure out where to go, I'll throw it in one of the AI chat boxes, and it runs with it, and then boom, it gets my mind back in gear of trying to come up with the next. I'm always thinking, and I'm one thing I will say about entrepreneurs: if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, and this is even for truck drivers, you can't settle. You're always trying to think if you get settled and content, a lot of times you lose that focus. You don't keep pushing, and that's when something will come up and bite you from behind. So I'm always thinking. So I'm always trying to come up with the next big thing or something that like will help the show. But let's get into your company. What made you want to start your own company from the logistics side?
So working for Echo, there was just some stuff that I didn't maybe agree with on a very small level. I think Echo does a great job. I think they're very good at what they do today. There were some things that I wanted that I saw as a person and how I wanted to like continue as a salesperson, right? Because that's what I'm really good at.
Right.
And they didn't provide it. So I started looking. I knew nothing about, so, we're one of the top agents for Global Trans. And
Hmm.
I also didn't want to have some headaches that come with, having my own MC and doing those kind of things, right? And,
Absolutely.
paying the carriers and doing all that stuff. So I started doing some research, and man, like, it's the best thing I ever did. Went out. We've moved a couple times from, different other places, and wound up here with Global Trans for the last 11, 12 years. And it's been great. But it really just came down to I didn't like the way I was being treated. And I felt I could do a better job for the customer at the end of the day with giving one point of contact to the customer.
Mhm.
I think that that's super important, and I think we're starting to see it even kind of go away today, where everybody wants to use, you know, I'm trying to think of like an email of like, load
Yeah.
board at
Mhm.
whatever company, and it's a group of people that respond to it. I'm still very old school in that
Yeah.
I think, Justin, if you're my customer, you know that you're going to call Ashley at Brighter Logistics and go, Ashley, what can you do on this? Not
Exactly.
send an email in to somewhere and is it going to be a black hole? It's going to be responded to in an hour. No, my team is going to respond inside of 15 minutes. Like I track it, I watch it, I
That's
make sure
good.
of it. I think the speed, I think the good old customer service part of it, you know, and you could ask anybody on my customer service team something about their customers. They're going to know if they have kids. They're going to know if they have grandkids.
Exactly.
They're going to know
Birth
all the
dates, all
things.
that kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. That's how I want to be treated, right?
Right. Well, we talk about it on here all the time that this industry is maybe the most important industry in the country about relationships. I mean, relationships are brought up every episode. With all the truckers wanting, and I don't even know if it's really truckers that truly want it. Somebody wants the agenda of all this transparency and everything with brokers. All that's going to get lost because a lot of your smaller brokers are going to go away if all that freight goes back to the manufacturer and they have to sit there and figure out how to get the freight to and from. That's the great thing about an agency program like at Global Trans or any of the others where somebody can just contact you and then you're the point of contact. They don't have to have 25 people on salary. They know if there's an issue, you or whoever you have assigned to that account is their contact person. They're going to handle the problems. All that has got value that I don't know if certain people in the industry understand that yeah, you might get it a little bit better deal if it's directly with the manufacturer, but the manufacturer is going to have to add all that money back in because they're going to have a whole lot more employees than working a deal with you or another broker. And I think it's something that's missed on that discussion that I never hear anybody really talk about. And for what you're doing, and I wish more people would understand this. The agent model, even if you're a broker or if you're a truck agent that's got trucks that you run owner operator trucks for a company like Evans or Great White or whoever has got an agent program. Those are great things because they're for somebody like you. I think you would agree. There's a lot of expense and headache and stress that you don't mind giving up a little bit just to let the corporate take care of it. And I wish other people in the industry, that you work with or drivers or whatever really understood that, like, sometimes giving up, because I'm making a point to owner operators who lease their trucks on. Sometimes it's worth giving up a little bit just to not have to keep up with all because this job is already bad enough as it is.
Is and I do agree. And like on my end of it, you know, for me, I started off saying like there are some other things I didn't want to deal with. I didn't
Hmm.
want to deal with paying the carriers, right? I don't want to have to
Yep.
carry that, um, that balance on my side of it, right? So a company like Global Trans does that for me. You get into those other agent programs like an Evans or,
Hmm.
a handful of other ones. There's a lot of them out there, obviously, and there's a reason for that because then you don't have to pay somebody to do the paying the carriers and receiving from the customers and all the things. That's all stuff that's handled, and um, I don't have to pay people to do that, so therefore I can usually do it for a little bit less. Now,
Yep.
if the manufacturer decides that they want to go be the one to do it again and bring truck fleets back into their own stuff, I don't think it'll last very long. I
I
don't.
don't either.
The headaches of they're not going to want to take on the liability if one of their drivers,
No.
you know, God forbid, hurts somebody, right? Like,
Yep.
and that's the stuff I think some of these people are forgetting about with all the terrible things that are in the news right now, especially like
Mhm.
around our industry specifically. I think people are losing sight of how hard it is to do what we do.
I
Now,
agree.
Justin, does that mean that, some of the big dogs out there could maybe do a little bit better of a job? And,
Almost definite.
right, they could definitely do. But
Yeah.
when you get into like the smaller agencies that are working through the big dogs, we care. I want to make sure that your truck's not going to get stolen. Like that's
Hmm.
important to me. I want to make sure that we check all the boxes and we use highway and we use all these different tools. And like I want to make sure of that. Like that is incredibly important to me. I want to
Hmm.
make sure that the people that we're putting on the road are incredibly safe, right? And you're right, that might cost you a few dollars more to have the right driver that's a little bit more expensive, but like that's part of it. So you have to choose, right? We want
Hmm.
really, really cheap and you get what you pay for.
That's
You pay a
right.
little bit, you pay a little bit more. You got a safe driver. You got one that's a legit driver. You got one that's following all the rules, right? That's where I'm going to go. And that's
Right.
what I tell my customers too at the end of the day. Like I think that's super important.
And you bring up something that we talk about a lot on here. We're a driver first mentality group. There's no secret. Me and my co-host Jonathan are part of a company called Ready App, and that's why we started Ready App. There is no system out there that actually vets the driver. So you as a broker, you have to rely on that carrier to do their job and make sure that that driver's legit, speaks English, doesn't have a lot of, bad history, wrecks, all that. And a lot of your carriers do a good job with that. But there's plenty of carriers that don't. There's plenty of fraud carriers out there now that, is in the news daily, for, doing something wrong or having 45 MC numbers within a 2 mile circle that's all connected. And there's nothing there to verify the driver. Now, the driver is still connected to the carrier, yes, but it's like double fold to me. The driver, with everything going on now with non-domicile CDLs, all these crashes, you see multiple videos daily of a driver being pulled over and can't speak English or read it. I understand. I've lived out of the country. I know it's not easy to be somewhere you can't understand what's
Speak.
going on. Speak it. I lived in China for a while. It was very difficult. I paid for me a young lady that stayed with me all through the business day, and I trusted her to tell me what was being said, but and not sure it always was, but I felt like I was in the conversations anyway. It's difficult, but it is so dangerous for those drivers to be here and can't read a road sign. And so that's why we started that to where, drivers can come in and do a digital passport because, in my opinion, drivers need to do the extra and stand out. If you're a legit driver, I understand it might be aggravating, but if you go do a digital passport, you can share it with anybody, a broker, insurance, DOT, and you can say, hey, I'm doing my part. I'm legit. And I think that's the way we're headed because, you said highway, there's carrier 411. They do a good job, but they pretty much stay on the carrier side. And for Ready App, we're trying to help the driver because I think you would agree the one problem we have in this industry, it's very fragmented. You've got this over here, this company does that, this brokerage has this set of rules, that brokerage and there's nothing uniform. The government unfortunately never react. They never act, they react. And it's a lot of times a little bit too late. I'm glad they're involved now. Hopefully, we'll make some good headways in the next couple of years, and get the bad publicity off trucking because I know you are. I'm tired of seeing it every day.
I
It's
am.
something, and it's because there's good, hardworking people throughout the industry, and there's bad apples. I mean, I don't care how good we do it. There's still going to be bad actors. I mean, that's
Agreed.
just the way it is. So, what do you think of having something that gets more to the driver's side?
Well, I think the driver's side, if you continue to get to the driver's side, you're going to have less, you should have less theft as well, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
we're going to get to it. Obviously, that is a large thing that's happening in our industry.
Mhm.
Kudos to those that are enforcing our laws today, because I
Mhm.
think as it is hard to have all these truck drivers being pulled off the road and it is making our job more difficult, it's doing the right thing for the long term, right? And I think if you can do things like what you're talking about with the digital passport and those kind of things, we should have less theft. Maybe, being more digital will also allow the younger generation, because
Yeah.
we do need to start like pushing truck drivers, because there's
Yes.
there's going to be a much larger issue at hand if we don't start putting it out in the world that we should want to be truck drivers and do the things.
Right. I got it.
Nobody, there's nobody that I know of that can say that they've ever lived and hasn't had something that's touched the truck at some point,
That's right.
right?
Yep.
So it everything comes back to the truck driver. Everything,
Hmm.
everything that
Absolutely.
we do, and I think including the news doing a bad job of like making us out to be the villains. Let's start promoting it as how
Positive.
about the positive side of like what these guys do for us, and
Hmm.
and being away from their homes and their families and the things that they do to support their families, instead of like, everybody out here is a crook. That's not even close, right? There's so
Right.
many people
Yep.
that do it right. And we are doing some of the things. The government is helping a little bit right now, specifically to help, get this right. And it is
Hmm.
making it more difficult, but I do think we have to continue down that path. We can't just flip this switch and then like forget about it. Like we need to continue down it and then make it a positive. Spin it. Let's spin this to a
Yeah.
positive. I think that's life, man. Like everything in life. Life's really hard if all you do is think about all the bad things that happen to you, right? But
Exactly.
as soon as something bad happens, you spin it and you go, listen, I'm happy
What?
to be alive. I'm happy to be here. Man, look at that. I've got a beautiful truck. I got a beautiful wife. I've got all these things, and my
Mhm.
family's awesome, and like I'm healthy. Like
Yep.
what more do I need?
I like you're saying that because I think you're right. People, especially the Americans, they don't realize you can't look anywhere in a 3 foot circle of where you're sitting that wasn't on a truck. And what I used to, my background is LTL and recruiting for the main part. And when I would recruit and talk to drivers and truck owners, I'm like, you're 18 to 30. Okay. Really, most companies won't hire you till you're like 21, 22 as a driver. Let's just say you're 20 to 30. Any of you men and women who are not looking to settle down right away, get in a truck, go see the country. It
Agreed.
is. I've traveled. I've been very blessed. I've traveled to probably 35 states. I've been all over. There is some beautiful parts of the country, and if you are a hard working truck driver, I promise you that if you do your part, your dispatch team can make it to where you end up on a break somewhere like at Yellowstone, somewhere near Yellowstone or somewhere near the redwood forest or the sequoia forest or one of the near Atlanta for the weekend or up north somewhere near not New York City because I don't trust anybody but just a any anywhere or by the Great Lakes or
You
something because
could be
it's
in the UP. There's so many places in this country that young people don't realize that are out there that they could absolutely go see the country.
yes.
And me too. I'm very much on the LTL side as well. Like I have
Hmm.
a very strong LTL background. I mean, shoot, we move about 5,000 LTL a month, and
Wow.
like, um, you know, I too have been very fortunate, mainly through the my kids' sports, to see most of the country. But same thing, go if you want to wind up somewhere, you just tell
Hmm.
them, and they'll find you a load. They will find
Exactly.
you a load, taking you wherever you want to go.
Yep.
Let
And
let let somebody pay to like see the world.
exactly. That's what I tell them all the time. Like, for the first 10 years, go see the country and be an OTR driver. You don't need a home. You can basically live in the truck. You take you a week off here too, go to a condo or a family person's house for a couple, a week or whatever, just to get out of the truck. I get it. You don't want to be in the truck, 24/7, but go see it. And I don't know if the government maybe should get involved in something like it and give some tax breaks to drivers who want to do that to incentivize them because when you get in your 30s then find you a husband or a wife, settle down, start having kids, and then become a regional or a local driver. But you've seen the world. You can make good money if you stay in your truck weeks at a time. You're gonna make, even though drivers, of course, I don't think still get fair pay a lot of times because it's not really went up a lot over 20 years. It's still kind of in the same range when you figure in with the fuel goes up and stuff. But if you stay in the truck consistently and grind those miles, you're going to get good. When you don't have any other bills, you're getting damn good paycheck.
You should be making six figures plus easily, very
Yeah.
easily. If you really start to break it down, you could make very good money. And
Hmm.
again, even if you want to be a mom and pop and you want to do it yourself and you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to have
Hmm.
your one truck and you want to be your own deal and you want to take all the risk and do all the things, guess what? You can make very, very good
Very
money.
good. Yeah.
You
But you
can
got to
make
stay,
very
you
good,
got to stay in the truck. If you got
but
one truck, you got to stay in it.
you got to stay in it. There's no doubt about it. But that's like anything else. But like if you do
Hmm.
that and you put some money to the side because you really have very little expenses outside of your gas after that point, right? So
Hmm.
guess what? Then maybe you get a second truck and you get a third truck, and then it could still be the American dream, right?
Yeah.
Let's turn it around and let's make it positive, and let's talk about the American dream of you know being your own boss and doing all the
Exactly.
things, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're a 22-year-old and you don't want somebody telling you what to want to do, and they all want to make six figures, right? Guess what? Then go buy yourself a truck and
Hmm.
go do it.
Something that I bring up all the time, and at some point I want to do it if I can get the right help to do it. And I think what you just said would be perfect for it. Truck drivers go to school, to CDL school. It's very short, very limited in what they learn, but they learn how to be a driver. Some do it well, some don't really learn very much, but they're still a driver. They start out, they start making money, and then they go, well, that load was a $2,000 load. I should have my own truck instead of getting 55 cents per mile. they go buy a truck or they, get a truck. They don't know anything about leasing on. They go get it their own authority. Well, then they realize their authority's no good for the first 6 months. So now they've been paying insurance and all this, and they go bankrupt. I wish there would be a school or maybe online. You wouldn't need it in, but you can do everything online. But drivers should be having more courses after CDL school to help them prepare to be an owner operator or even just a successful company driver, because there's so much you can learn, and it's like you're just handed off, and I will say carriers, and I don't know if it's carriers fault per se, because there's no incentive for company drivers to do extra work like that, because they're not really going to, but it would make the industry, it'd make your job better if you dealt with more drivers that understood leaving on time. Because to me and you, that's common sense, but it's not always thought of that way. They go, I'll leave 30 minutes later. That 30 minutes has just messed up your whole day, and it's messed up your day even worse.
And then the customer's upset, and then everybody's upset, and then things are behind, and
At some point, if you start running late, it's going to cost you a whole load that week. You're going to lose a day at some point, and that's anywhere from $500 to $1,500 profit that you missed out on. And the bills are still coming on Friday when it comes. So I could go down that rabbit hole all day. But so do y'all? I would assume Global Trans does it kind of like how they did it where I was at. So you offer the customer multiple trucking LTL companies on one platform, and then they can
yeah,
figure out the cheapest price or the quickest or the non. So kind of go into all of that and explain to
so
the
preferred,
folks.
and
Hmm.
yeah, so um, Global Trends does a great job of the offerings. We have a great online tool portal
Hmm.
where people log in, and that has made life better and worse all at the same time, because the customer can go in and do all the things themselves, right?
Hmm.
That you know, but it has also made it where it's very easy for a customer to shop and
True.
compare. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm saying that has made it where people are less loyal, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And what we see is you kind of got on a little bit. And I'll throw some numbers out there too. Is like we literally have some customers that will not use us over a few dollars, right?
All right.
Because
Yeah. Hmm.
the margin compression has been very real over the last 4 years of this freight recession that we're maybe finally coming out of. But like it's been that makes it better and worse from that side of it, because again, if I'm doing my job, like I don't think a couple dollars should matter, but that's just me.
Right.
um I'm a very loyal human. But getting into class, that is, the government stepped in a little bit this year. And when I say the government, I'll go back into like the NMFTA, the
Hmm.
National Motor Freight Association was that doing that. A lot more things went to density base, which helps.
Ah.
Some
Yeah.
com some companies like Central Transport, who everybody's got their feeling on Central. I personally, I don't have an issue with them. I've always
Uh,
said since 2008 that I always thought that they do it the right way, because everything for them is based on their density, right?
yeah. Hmm.
There would be no questions on what class was.
That's
If
right.
if you put your dims in, you have your weight, you get your density, that is your class.
Yeah.
Done. It would be super simple, right?
100%.
They stepped in. There are a lot more things went to density, but also then it got more difficult, and they added these things that have been in our tariffs forever, and now they're finally like charging them things. There's the newest one that they're getting us on our is the bump rule, and the bump rule is like if it's every carrier is a little bit different on where it kind
Hmm.
of bumps it. Kind of starts around 60-ish inches, but goes up to about
Hmm.
70 and really kicks in around 70. And if it's so, like, let's say your pallet's 71 inches high, certain carriers will bump that to 96, which then brings your density way down, which then goes up. I'm sitting on one this morning that's $864 rebill, even though they did everything right.
Wow. I
So
remember
it's
them
like
days.
the rebills are real in our world,
Yes.
and they're very difficult. Again, it's very hard to keep a customer happy when you go, I know you quoted this, but it's going to be $864 more. Um, so there's a lot of that.
Hmm.
But you mentioned something about, like, volume. This is a volume game.
Hmm.
We're not making 300 or $500 on a shipment. You know,
Yeah.
average, call it 40. But like I said, if you move 5,000 a month, then we're doing okay.
Right.
So I enjoy the LTL market probably
Mhm.
more than I do sometimes the truckload market, um, because I think it's an easier way into a customer.
Yeah.
So for us, I think it's a little bit easier. But what we're seeing right now in the market is it's actually easier on the truckload side of it because of all of the things that are going on from the less truck drivers, from the diesel prices, and everybody's prices have jumped through the roof, right?
Hmm.
So we are seeing an easier in right now in truckload than we ever have, because people are not as loyal as we'd like them to be. And when their prices jump 1,000, 1,500, $2,000 on a single lane over a
Yeah.
6 week period, they're like, I got to find somebody else. So again, it's some of that comes down to margin compression too, and doing the things from a business standpoint that, doesn't make sense to get in, with ABC company and only make a 3%, it
Right.
may long term, so it's been an interesting market. It's been very, very interesting. And I go back to the theft. The theft has been another part of that. Like, knock on wood, we've been very fortunate, but people get that happens to them one time, and boy, they are ready to go anywhere else.
Most of the time, it's not the broker's fault. I mean, the broker has some responsibility and everything, of course, but I mean, I see stories all the time of you have a driver that infiltrates a trucking company and stays for 6 to 8 months and be's the perfect soldier, per se, and does the job, no complaints, always doing his job, just for that one load that is the gold mine, and then boom, he disappears with it. And I mean, no one predicts that. I mean, it's
Yep.
sad that we live in that society, but unfortunately we do. One thing I did want to ask you about theft, since you brought it back up, has that hit the LTL side very much?
It has not. It really hasn't. It's much, much more difficult. I mean, obviously, we have about, call it 80 to 90 different LTL carriers that are in the system for us. But like faking, an LTL carrier would be
Mm,
incredibly difficult.
yeah.
I'm sure somebody's out there trying to figure out how to do it, and all the things, right? But um, it I haven't seen it. Doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. I have not seen it.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a blueprint that the carriers need to try to look at what the LTL side's doing. Maybe there's something they can learn, because that was one thing that I did enjoy. You didn't have to worry about drivers that much. They typically were there that day they say they were going to pick up. And, usually, you would find out if for some reason their truck was completely full before they reached, especially if you did a late afternoon pickup, so you didn't ever have that type of worry.
We will have some freight that goes missing, that goes
Oh,
lost.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but that freight that goes lost, sometimes found, sometimes is not found. But like you said, it cross docks. It could cross dock 5, 6 times to get across the country, right? It might
Yep.
cross dock once to go 600. So the cross docking is normally where that happens. But I'm sure that there is freight that falls off a back end of a truck just like anything else does. And it's terrible to say that, but it's the truth in the industry. And sometimes we have to go to explain that to the carrier or the customer. I'm sorry, and it's never fun. But we have plenty of missed pickups. We have plenty of stuff that
Mhm.
doesn't pick up day because they are full, like you said. We have stuff that doesn't deliver on time, and especially during the winter, I mean, it gets even
Yeah.
harder. And you got to explain that you got to go through all of it, and um, you know, and the LTL stuff is not guaranteed, right? And that's hard for some people to understand.
Yeah, even I learned in LTL, even if you pay for guaranteed, because back, I don't know if they still have it, but back in, 10 years ago, they had guaranteed delivery. It never paid off. You didn't get anything back if it didn't. I mean, it was just you got kind of a more priority. That's about it.
Yeah, if it didn't deliver on time, and there's still some that do it, if it didn't deliver on time, they just gave you the 60 extra dollars. You didn't get the whole thing back. You just got
Right.
the 60 extra dollars back. It wasn't like because they just they just tried a little bit harder to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I see the truckload world as like I think of that as like a game, right? That's a game and how to quote it, how to do
Mhm.
it, how to move it, all the things. It's like a game. It's a lot of moving parts. The LTL is a game on the backside of it. With you might get hit with a redelivery fee, you might get hit with a reweigh, a reclass, and the dimensionalizers that have been put into play over the last 3 to 5 years across all these cross docks. As our customers, they can't get away with an extra inch,
Mm-mm.
and those dimensionalizers come into play, and if their freight shifts in transit and it now hangs over by an inch and we're off, we're getting nailed because
Oh,
that's all the dimensionalizer sees is what it picks up,
right.
right? That's a machine that then goes into an AI tool and kicks it back out and says, "Here it is."
Well, and two, a big problem with LTL, it's not really a problem, but it's part of the industry. You've got a truckload that's got 10,000, 30,000 pounds, whatever it is, and you've got multiple pieces. So you can divide that $2,000 by 20,000 items on that load. An LTL shipment, like with my lumber, it was usually double what the price of the wood was. And I might have 50 to 100 boards that I'm shipping, but it's $3 a board is what it ends up costing to move it. And when you get hit with one of those up charges and stuff, now you're up to 800. You don't have a lot of way to maneuver it into 10,000 pieces. It's just what's on that pallet, and it kills businesses.
It does.
I mean, it's tough, but it's a necessary evil. You got to have LTL. I mean, it's nowhere around that. I like LTL. Like I said, it's just it's tough with that, and I knew even when I was in it that was only going to get worse. And what you just said, if it shifts, what do you do? I guess build a
So think
crate.
about it this way. Think about somebody that manufactures uh, ladders, right? So
Mhm.
excessive length has become a major issue that the LTL carriers want nothing that's not, if it's not like 48 by 40 by 48. They really
Yes.
don't want it. So if it gets over eight
Yep.
feet, if it gets
Hmm.
over 8 feet, anything over 8 feet, we get hit with massive, massive amounts of money. Like I had one that happened last week, $1,300. It was 12 feet long. It cost an additional $1,300 on top of the
Mm.
already cost because it was 13 feet long. And
Yeah.
it's gotten out of hand. So those guys, it's killing some businesses for sure. It does make it very, very difficult.
Well, I'll
But
t-
that's
I'll
the world
I'll
that we live in.
I'll tell you a quick story, and you can get mad at me for it. So I guess it was early 2000s. I got with that company and I was doing LTL. Well, a lot of my customers used Conway, which is, I guess XPO
That's
now, but they used
XPO
to,
now, yeah.
yeah. So they were all using them direct. I had all my customers. I had like 50 customers. They all started using me and still using Conway to pick them up. Well, Conway finally figured it out after about 2 or 3 months, and I'm doing great. The LTL people at the office love me because I got this heavy freight. No one cared how long it was. They picked it up, and it was heavy, so it was good money, right? Conway finally figured it out. They were the first company to implement that, just the 96 inch, because that kind of took care of everything. And they went to all my customers and said, "Hey, if you'll come back, we won't charge you that 96 inch. You'll still go back." And of course, they left me in a heartbeat, which I don't blame them. And then it was just not long after that, almost every carrier adopted it, and then it went to 144 inches, and then that's right where they really wanted to stop because that was 3 pallets. And then when I'd have something 20 foot long or 16 foot long, I mean, they would just, and that really between that and the stuff that was going on in '08 and the partial the package, because I did a lot of one board stuff because I was huge. I did a couple hundred shipments a week just in single boards, and it finally the LTL and all that just put me out of business. I couldn't afford to ship it, and it wasn't a company kind of like you could do local. So I totally get that. And like I've got a buddy that's in the fiberglass business, and it's hurt him terribly because a sheet of fiberglass is 98 inches, and he gets dinged for that 2 inches, and you can't really cut it off. So, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So, so let's talk about your truckload side. So, do you handle van, flatbed, reefer? What do y'all typically handle?
We can do all the above.
Okay.
We do a lot of dry van. Um,
Hmm.
we do stay away from some of the reefer stuff. We stay away from, getting into produce and that kind of stuff or
Right.
flour. We stay away from that. We stay away from cars. We do not get into cars. So we do a lot of drive van. We do some reefer. We can do a ton of flatbed. Flatbed market right now is incredibly volatile because a lot of the
Mhm.
trucks that have dropped off the road are on the flatbed side of it. There's been a lot of flatbeds
Okay.
taken off the roads. It's been interesting. We're working on a one for a customer right now, 83 loads to one truck in the area. You know,
Yikes.
and so, you got to get creative and you got to start thinking
Mhm.
through some things and doing those kind of things for your customers. And it's not even money at that point that then moves it sometimes. It's got to be the right guy that's in the area, and you might have to do a lot of deadhead to go get it
Right.
because that's where they want it. Kind of like we talked about with the younger kids and saying you want to get to a certain point.
Mhm.
This is actually a good lane. It's going into Atlanta, so like, it's a good lane.
Yeah.
And but it's the 83 to 1, right? So
Right.
now it's going to be money. Now it's going to be the lane. It's going to be if they want to go to Atlanta, like,
Mhm.
you got all those factors that start to go into it. So I think they covered it this morning, but I haven't
What?
I haven't I
What?
haven't I haven't looked lately. So
But what you're saying makes a good point, and this is where dispatchers need to educate themselves. If that's a good load, or a good load, good pan, and it's a good, lane, that's when you have to try to talk to your driver and get them to understand. Okay, is it going in the right direction? Or if it's not, I can get a little bit more money, but this puts you in a good position on your next delivery. Look, we're in a place that has very, that the ratios are not, good, but I can get here. And you have to be, even on that side, you have to be creative, because if it was easy, everybody and their brother would be a dispatcher, but dispatchers
agreed.
are in and out and gone a lot because they get burned out or tired, and drivers get tired. So, of dealing with a bad dispatcher, because you don't have to go to school for it. You don't even have to learn. Somebody can just hand you a notepad and a computer and say, here's your 5 trucks, go dispatching. I mean, that's just how it is in a lot of places. So you don't get a lot of experience. So I like the ideas of you being creative. Another thing I wanted to talk about, because you brought it up earlier in the show, was how you monitor and watch your team, and you've got your team, making sure they answer the calls, and reply and things of that nature, which is very important because, as you were saying earlier, everything's like an email now. A lot of the load boards don't even have phone numbers on it no more, so you can't really
Yeah.
talk to that person. Which I'm a big relationship person. Talk about your leadership and how you've built your team, and what you expect your team to do and follow for somebody that's starting about thinking about taking their book of business somewhere, and having their own little team to try to run.
There's been a lot of trials and tribulations over the last 17 years of doing this. So, um, the things that I think that are important,
Mhm.
I do think the relationship is important, understanding the customer, who they are as a person. I train very heavily. My team meets every single morning, and we talk about what the day before brought us, right? And we
Mhm.
go over certain things, and then we'll go over certain trucks that might be on the board. And Global Trans does, help us, and they are very good at helping us book those truckloads too. So it's a great thing for them, and they do a
Mhm.
great job of it too. And so we'll talk about that. I also think communication is the key to everything.
Yeah.
Um, if we have, if we over communicate, we will be better off. And if we're so honest that some people don't like it, I would rather that. When I say over communicate, even if you might not have an answer, I think it's incredibly important to say, "Hey, Mr. Customer, or Mrs. Customer, we're working on this, and give us a few. We're going to get right back to you." Still trying to always be inside of that 15 minutes. Same thing with a phone call. We do spend a lot of time on the phone with LTL carriers specifically and being on hold.
Mhm.
So, like, if we don't answer the phone, it's very important that we call them back inside of 15 minutes, right? Email has made our lives a lot better, but it has also made some things where I think it's less relationship, more transactional. I try to stay away from that.
Mhm.
My team is required to make 25 calls a day, to our current to their like the customers that they take care of. If they don't
That's a
get
good
them,
idea.
leave a message and just say,
Yeah.
"Hey, hey, Justin, just thinking about you today. Just wanted you to know we're here. Let us know what you need. Right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you do get them on the phone, let's talk to them. Let's learn about them. Let's learn about their kids and their sports and their hobbies and all the things, and keep digging, right? And keep. So the next step of that,
Absolutely.
I'm a big believer in learning about people's birthdays. So my
Yes.
CRM holds their birthdays and automatically sends them a birthday cookie on their birthday, sends them an email, does all the things, right? I think it's important.
It makes a
Um,
big difference. It does. It really
it really
does.
does. It's how I want to be treated. And where I struggle,
Mhm.
Justin, most of the time is when I go somewhere else and it's like I get treated poorly, I feel, and I'm like, God, how are these people still in business? And like if
Yeah.
I did that to my customer, I wouldn't have any customers. I'm like, this is killing
Right.
me.
Yeah.
Um, so it's the touches. Those are the things that I really think that separate us at a high level is the touches, the personal touch. On top of the 25 calls, I ask my people to send 10 to 15 thank you emails to another set of customers, just
Hmm.
telling them thank you because I think thank yous are important. I really
Yeah.
do. If you're ever on an email chain with me, you're going to see words like partnership and like,
Hmm.
because it is like, I'm going to mess up at some point. When I mess up, just tell me,
Right.
right? Be
Yep.
honest with me, be direct. Let me then go fix it for you.
Yep.
And that's the partnership part, right? So I talk about that a lot with my team. I think those are the things that really do separate my team from a lot of teams. We have about 1,300 customers across the country. Not all of them ship every month, but
Hmm.
um, we ship with a little over 500 on a regular basis. Um,
Nice.
but like it's taken a long time, and
Hmm.
I'm kind of pumped because I think I was talking about my oldest one that plays baseball at.
Hmm.
I think you and I talked on the side about him at Michigan State, right?
Yep.
And that's coming to an end,
Right.
and I'm like, buddy, what are you gonna do? Well, Dad, I don't want to sit behind a desk. And this was, 3 months ago. I don't want to
Right.
sit behind a desk like you all day. I said, young man, I tell you what, I don't like sitting behind a desk either. But guess what? The freedom that I have had to go
Yes.
do and never miss a game of yours from high school to collegiately, I'm 350, 400 games in. I'm like, are you sure that this isn't something? Oh, and he's actually ringing in right now. I'm going to hang up on him. But
That's a good
um,
point. That's right.
it does. But like, so he's actually going to come work for my wife, Wendy, and I,
Oh, oh,
when he's
great.
done. So, I got some other friends in the industry, and they're like, "You're going to bring him into the logistics world? Are you nuts? Are you crazy? Like, that's a terrible idea." And I said, "I don't know. I
Yeah.
kind of love it. I kind of love what I do. I know I love
Hmm.
what I do. And like I've said this forever. I'm like, if I could have started doing this 10 years earlier, my goodness, where I could be in the things. And at the end of the day, we have I have a ton of freedom to do what I want, and my family is the most important part of all of it.
Hmm.
And so like always being there for them has been
Yep.
super cool, right? And my other son with his shoe store is
Hmm.
literally on the front of my building here, and he's sitting 50 feet from me on through a wall, right? And it's like,
That's
I
awesome.
get to do stuff with my family, and
Hmm.
um, and I even if you're a truck driver, right, Justin? If you're a truck
Yep.
driver, you want to spend time with your family, you just say, "Hey, I'm taking 3 days off." You're taking 5 days
Hmm.
off, and, and
Yep.
you and most companies, if they're good about it, they will
Well,
do that.
and if you're a good worker, if you know you're going to take 3 to 5 days off, stay out that weekend before. Get an
Yep,
extra load or two for your company so they can still make their margins. They got margins in to make too. So
yep,
I tell drivers, but you make a couple good points. One, what you talk about with how you handle your team, I don't hear that very often in the industry. So I applaud you for that. The morning meetings, I don't know a lot of companies that do that. It might be an email. Hey, remember to do that. It's not, come together. Is there problems? What can we do? And then the little things you do, like I said a minute ago, is very huge. I don't, as a customer, I would never need you to do anything extravagant. But if you remember my birthday and say, hey, happy birthday, we appreciate your business, that goes a long way because when you're dealing with other CEOs, that don't need, like a certain kind of gift, just being appreciated that you appreciate what they're giving you in business goes a long way. And then two, your example of being behind the desk. After I was in my lumber business, I was there. I never was behind the desk until I got into trucking. kind of like you, I wished I'd have gotten the trucking 10 years earlier because it's given me a lot of freedom. I'm actually a single parent. I've had to raise my daughter for the last 11 years by myself. I've been able to go to every ball game, every
Kudos
doctor's
to you.
appointment. Thank you. Thank you. But my father, he worked 3 jobs. None of them was behind the desk. Love him to death, but he never showed up for a ball game. He never was at a practice because he worked all the
Weird.
time, you know?
My
So,
my dad was an oil geologist, man. My dad was gone all the time,
oh,
and he is the hardest working human that I know.
yeah.
And it's the same thing, but he wasn't at a lot of it, and that changed
Mhm.
things for me, right?
Me, yeah, me too. It's
Mhm.
kind of funny. I didn't have my kid, my child until I was in my late 30s. And luckily it was great for me. I was able to go do everything, do the dumb stuff, travel the world, blow money, whatever. And then when I had her, I was mature enough to go, okay, it's time to stop that and let's be a dad. And then I went back to my childhood. Like I played in the state championship game. My father wasn't at the game, and we won the state championship. And I'm like, I'm not missing it. I'm not even missing the little bittiest little league t-ball game. I'm going
As
to
you
be there.
should.
Coach it or whatever I can do. Be a spectator, clap, cry, whatever. So I applaud you for that because that means a lot to
Thank you.
me too. And well, before we get off here, I want your perspective on the future of logistics. Probably the hardest question you can anybody can be asked these days. But what do you see from your side of the industry? Either LTL or truckload with the brokerage side or what have you over the next few years. What do you see?
I think AI will have an impact.
Hmm.
I'm not sure yet. Just like when Uber Freight came into the industry, however many years ago that was, and everybody's like, they're not going to do anything. I think they're $4 or $5 billion right now. I
Yeah,
mean, they're
yeah,
they're,
they still
um,
here.
but but they just showed their first quarter of profit in company history. So
Wow.
um, they had a lot of money behind them to make things work. They're figuring it out. They have. Good for them. Kudos. Keep doing what you're doing. I don't think that
Hmm.
they didn't change the industry like everybody said that they were going to do, though. It wasn't going to be like,
Right.
you were never going to need a broker again. You were never going to need like the trucks. And, you know, there's so many different ways that question can go.
Hmm.
Does that mean that more of the trucks are going to be automated? I don't think so.
I think you'd still have a driver in the truck. I mean, it's just like an airplane. You still have pilots in the airplane. They can fly itself, but you still got somebody in there. I agree.
You have to. And, I think it was some of the big out in Colorado is where they've been testing it over the last few years, where they've
Hmm.
tested it with beer, with I
Hmm.
want to say it was Budweiser or one of those guys, or maybe it was Coors. That's Coors
Cougars, probably.
brand. Coors Light. And like they've tested it. We haven't seen it.
Hmm.
Now getting into AI, you had mentioned something, and it kind of like when we talked about like reading books and things, you said something, and I'm like, boy, somebody's going to figure out how to use AI to dispatch loads based on an equation. You watch, there's going to be an equation based on numbers, weights, all the
Yeah.
things. And you're
Yeah.
never going to talk to a human. It's going to be like LA to Tampa, Florida, and it's going to be $8,473.28. Would you like us
Hmm.
to book this for you? I don't know. Is that where this is going? Um, I hope not.
Me too.
Um, I really hope not. I want the whole world to understand. Like, I don't think that the AI, there is parts of AI I think are awesome, but like,
Hmm.
I want people to still be people and do people thing, right?
Yeah.
Our phones have disconnected us more than we want to admit. So I think that could disconnect us more than on top of it. I think with what's happening in logistics right now with the stuff that's in the Supreme Court,
Hmm.
um, I think that could have some major implications. And I hope they really, really, really think about that because if a company of that size can then be held accountable, what it's going to be, and they aren't the driver, they're not the things. Now, they should have done a lot of other things. I'm not saying that at all.
Right.
But
Yeah.
like if they say that the broker can absolutely and should absolutely be held responsible as well, the small guy isn't going to be able to make it.
Man, no,
They're, they're
they
just
might as well
not.
get out of business. They might as well just stop because one thing is going to put them far under quick.
You watch like if that comes out in June when it's supposed to, and that is the ruling that comes down. We think that it's hard right now to cover trucks.
Hmm.
It's going to get really hard,
Yeah.
really fast, and because everybody will start jumping, right? And then all you're
Yep.
going to have left is the big boys, right? The 5 billion and above is going to be what's going to be left in that brokerage world. And even I think in the truckload world, right?
Yeah.
Everything's going to roll up into the big boys that can afford it. It's going to make it hard on mom and pops. It's going to make it hard on the guy that wants to be just a purely a truckload broker, just purely truckload broker, do nothing else and be his own guy and work through one place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that that's going to be a thing anymore, right?
Yep.
So there's a lot to that. And please don't hear me say anything other than I do think that there should be some responsibility on how you book the loads and who you use and like not doing shady things. That is
Right.
not the case at all. That is one of the things that I love about Global Trans is like they absolutely check, recheck, do this. I mean, I can't tell you how many times they're like, we can't book this carrier. We can't book this carrier. We can't book this
Mm.
carrier. We can't book this carrier. It's over and over and over. And it's like, man, that sucks, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But there's a reason,
That's right.
right? There's a reason because it's not safe. And so I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways that this could go, Justin, over the
Yeah.
next few years. I think there's a lot of ways. I don't think we're going away. There's always that conspiracy theorist that
Yeah.
we're going to go away and it's never going to happen. I
No.
don't think that's happening.
No, I think some jobs, some people's going to reinvent themselves or multi-job, have multiple jobs because AI is helping, which I have no problem with AI. AI helps me every day. But I don't try to get it to do my job. I try to help it make my response times faster, my ideals better, my documents look better, my emails sound more, professional or what have you. But yeah, I think people's just going to have to reinvent themselves a little bit, and then of course the next generation coming in, there's no telling. I'm with you. There's no telling what they'll be able to do 20 years from now. I mean, and they probably said the same thing when we was coming out of high school, so
Exactly.
so much more, because it's changed so much. I mean, I didn't learn anything about computers really growing up. I was in the internet business, but I learned it on my own through AOL in my house and figured out the internet. Now I can't work a computer for nothing, but I know the internet, but other than that, but now they get, I mean, like even my child and yours did too, probably. They don't even work with pen and paper no more. It's all on an iPad or a
Yeah.
computer. Well, we have appreciate having you on. It's been a great conversation. Definitely before I let you go, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, your socials, your email numbers, or whatever you like to have in case there's a customer that's out there looking for a good place to call home.
Again, Justin Bright, Brighter Logistics, brighterlogistics.com is the easiest way to, find all of our information. We are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on all the things, but my direct line, always on, doesn't mean I'm always sitting at my desk because I'm probably at a baseball game somewhere. But my line's 586-723-1532. My wife is here a lot more than I am. And hers is 586-723-1523. Justin, I can't thank you enough for bringing me on too and letting me kind of,
Yeah. Oh,
have a great conversation too. And it's always great to do this. So thank you.
well, we do. We appreciate your perspective. Keep up the great work, and good luck to your son this weekend. Hopefully, things work out so y'all can go play some more ball. Today, we want to thank our sponsors. So this episode was brought to you by Gray Cross. Gray Cross is dedicated to supporting trucking families when they need it the most, whether it's a medical emergency, financial hardship, or an unexpected situation on the road. They step in to provide real help for the people behind the wheel. The industry runs on drivers, guys, and the Gray Cross is here to make sure those drivers and families are taken care of when it matters most. If you can donate $1, $5, $10, please go to the site. They do a great cause for the industry. And then our other sponsor that sponsors is ReadyApp. ReadyApp is changing the way drivers, carriers, and brokers connect by creating a verified driver profile that puts everything in one place. Your work history, your documents, your qualification are all organized, digital, and ready to go. Instead of filling out the same applications over and over, driver can share that one profile to companies to get hired faster. Like I said earlier, they can share it with a DOT officer, they can share it with their insurance company, they can share it with anybody that needs their documents. It's just about bringing structure and transparency and trust into a fragmented industry that needs a change from a long time ago. That's ready-app.com, so go check that out. Again, Justin, we appreciate you. You have a great evening. We appreciate, like I said, your perspective and how you handle your business. For everybody, make sure you go and share and subscribe the show. Check us out on all our socials, and we'll catch you next time on Trucker Talk Radio. Have a good evening, everybody.